Good morning, my dear students. I do not know if some of you had any experience of drinking alcohol. In the lesson Addictions, which we are going to take today, we are told about the experience of Varun, who had his first experience of having a drink on the occasion of his cousin's marriage when he was just 18 years old. He was introduced to it by his friends who teased him and persuaded him to try it. Then the following year, he joined the college and was staying in a hostel. There also, along with his college friends, he got into the habit of drinking and celebrating often. Gradually, it was becoming a habit even after getting a job and even after getting married. Soon, his first concern in life shifted to drinking and everything else came second. He started to realize that when he did not have a drink, he had a sense of panic and his hands would start trembling. He was unhappy and just drank to escape life. He soon started alienating family and friends. The lonelier he got, the more he drank. He was violent and out of control. He never knew what he was doing, while in reality, he was ripping his family apart. My dear students, many of us may be aware of the harsh consequences of alcoholism and other addictions. Yet, like Varun, this awareness might not stop us from experimenting with new habits or giving into peer pressure only to find ourselves spiraling into a pit of addiction later. These habits could range from alcoholism, taking drugs, premarital sex, and pornography, and internet addiction to non-stop playing of video games, overtime work, shopping, etc. Recent surveys of teens on addictions have turned up startling facts. The worst habits start during the teenage years. The reasons could be different. For many, it might be due to peer pressure or the need to fit in with the friends group or to let themselves and others believe that they are grown up. For some, it would be out of curiosity to know the pleasure it gives, and for some, to rebel against parents or overly strict rules. The shocking fact is that there are many networks which purposely focus on teenage groups, exploiting their adolescent aptitude to adventure and exploration. Although being trapped in these groups, many of us might not even realize the dangerous side of it. The reason is that these groups would give us all we want: approving friendship circles, pleasure, and easy money. Dear students, do you know the meaning of addiction? It means enslaved by or bound to, and that's exactly what alcohol, drugs, or pornography do. They enslave us and make it very difficult to shake off the habit. Remember that we are fragile, weak. There's a story told about a brass pot which proposed to the earthen pot that they would go out into the world together. But the earthen pot tried to excuse himself, saying, "You know how fragile I am. It would take so little to break me. he said. But the brass pot urged him that he would take care of him and would save him from any hardship. Thus, both these pots, brass one and earthen one, set out together side by side, jostling along on their stubby legs, first to this side, then to that, and bumping falls into each other at every step. The earthen pot could not survive that sort of companionship very long. They had not gone even 10 paces before the earthen pot cracked, and at the next jolt it crumbled into 1,000 pieces. More often, led by our friendship groups, we start these habits just to experiment, being unaware of the later stages that it would lead us to. In reality, the extensive use of alcohol, addiction to drugs, and the exposure to sexual vulgarity through porn sites has contributed immensely to higher rates of crime in society today. Being driven and dominated by such addictions, one could easily lose their humanness and morality and consequently be led to sexual abuses and greater crimes. Hence, it would be wise to be aware of the fragility of our lives and also to remember that a simple curiosity can lead to habits that would shatter our lives completely. Dear students, now we shall consider 5 different stages of addictions and its dangers. Addiction takes place gradually, stage by stage. What is the first stage? Experimental stage. During this first level, it begins with either curiosity or peer pressure. This stage usually doesn't have any physical or psychological effects. A strong willpower and determination can easily enable us to get out from this first stage. Second stage, regular use. During this stage, from experimental stage, it comes to the regular use when we start to incorporate them into our routine. At this stage, we are not yet reliant on the drug or our physical or psychological functioning, but start to train our brain to respond to the rewards of getting used to it. Usually, people take it to escape pain and stress or to experience relief or heightened pressure, etc. At this phase too, we can still stop if we really want to do it. Then comes the third stage, risk-taking stage or substance abuse stage. At this stage, the habits which were non-problematic till then start to become problematic. It begins to slowly take control of us. It affects our judgment and prompts us to do things that we had never considered or had the guts to do in the past. It would then start to affect our work performances, relationships, finances, etc. And the worst part, it would make us turn to these chemicals or habits again and again as a way to escape the discomfort. Once this stage is reached, quitting becomes more difficult, and even if we try to quit, we won't be able to fight the cravings. Definitely, an external help is required to escape this stage. Then we come to the fourth stage, which is chemical dependency. If use is continued, it develops into a dependency stage. In this stage, the brain becomes wired in such a way that we cannot function without the drugs or alcohol. We would feel unable to cope if we do not have enough of the substance, to get through the day. Even if we try to stop these habits, it could even cause physical and psychological withdrawal symptoms. Symptoms like tremors, sweating, seizures, anxiety, depression, forgetfulness, etc., as the body and mind depend on it. Without medication and psychotherapy, one cannot get rid of this stage. Then we come to stage 5, addiction. In this final addiction stage, this dependency takes on a compulsive quality that if we can't get the drug or if we can't follow that particular habit, our cravings would become unbearable and our whole life would spiral out of control. The physical and psychological stage heightens and it develops into a chronic disease. The saddest part is that at this point, it is a drug and the habitual disorders that would control us and not the other way around. At this stage, without external help, quitting is impossible. Now, dear friends, let us come to the most important part of this lesson. How can we fight this addiction? Number 1, find out the flaw or the defect in your life. In our personal lives, there could be a flaw, a defect that could eventually ruin our lives. Perhaps it might be our greed for money, jealousy towards others, rebellious nature, being overambitious, boredom, or even ignorance about the value of life, etc. Finding out what it is would be the very first step to fight and get rid of these evils from our life. As Abraham Lincoln, the former president of America, says, determine that the thing can end and shall be done, and then we shall find the way. The second stage is be vigilant. Another step would be to be aware of the dangers and to stay vigilant. Prevention is better than cure, goes the famous saying. The best way to avoid the saddest effects of these habits would be not to even dare to experiment with them, as it would end up like the story of the camel and the Arab. And within no time, they could take control of our lives. If we are already grasped by these unwanted habits, a prudent way would be to acknowledge them. Because before we can break out of prison, we must realize that we are locked up. Once the danger zones are identified, it would be judicious to approach trustworthy people, our parents, teachers, or faithful friends to help us to come out of it. And third stage, healthy support. Another great step that could help us would be to have a reliable and healthy source of support, keeping in touch with a healthy community who tell us the truth when we are kidding ourselves and would help us to get through the toughest situations. By developing positive good habits, hobbies, and making good friends who practice healthier habits would certainly help us work through negative behaviors in a life-affirming manner. By living a healthier lifestyle of daily exercises, healthy food, meditation, etc. is also an excellent way to avoid addictions in life. The fourth important means to avoid addiction is to strengthen the soul. The Islam religion teaches us that the soul commanding to evil grips the individual in a state of forgetfulness. Addictions and all human infractions arise from this, where the human being is heedless of the purpose of life. Hence, the optimal means to stay away from the cravings and compulsions of these evil habits would be to develop a positive attitude towards life and its purpose. It would only lead us to a wholesome living by providing a balanced and moderate outlook on life and its challenges. Buddha reminds us, I am the owner of my karma. Whatever karma I create, whether good or evil, I shall inherit. Once we realize this great mystery of life, we would strive to reach a stage of tranquility and peace through a disciplined life and in obedience to God. And the last means of getting rid of this addiction is take responsibility to prevent addiction in your life. Gandhiji has once said, as human beings, our greatness lies not so much in being able to remake the world, but in being able to remake ourselves. It is our own effort to prevent or overcome the addictions in life that count more than any other efforts. Just like our willingness and consent could bring destruction to our lives, our watchfulness and attempts can intercept the injuries of the evil habits in our life. But the vital part is to put our shoulder to the wheel and try to drag off from the muddy road. God would certainly come to help us, and the victory would be ours. Dear friends, as a conclusion to this lesson, let us take a pledge. Let us take a pledge to say no to all harmful substances and habits. We shall take this pledge together in the class tomorrow when we meet. Thank you. Have a nice day and God bless you.